I want to wish everybody a warm afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining me, Robin Bienfait, for a Valor Visionary series with Vital4 founder, one of the founders of Vital4, Amy Barbieri, and she can always correct the last name for me. But I'm Robin Bienfait, and I'm a partner at Valor Ventures. And I love these series because it allows us to have kind of a personal chat with a founder on why and what they are doing to change the world for us. And I'm so excited to be here with Amy because I just love what Amy and team are doing. Vital4 was near and dear to my heart when I saw what they were doing. And a little bit about my background, those of you that have watched some of our series before, I worked for AT&T and was an executive at AT&T over global networks and was their chief compliance officer. And then left and went to Blackberry and was their CIO and ran all of their product security as well as enterprise sales. And then went to Samsung and was an executive at Samsung. I was their chief enterprise innovation officer. So I've had 3 global roles, and I always look for technology that will not only disrupt, but really change the way we do and think about work and our work initiatives. And I love stuff that helps us not only change the way we do business, but make our efforts of doing business easier and more capable and more secure. So when Vital4 came on the plate for me to take a look at, I was so excited to see their AI engine and some of the things that they're doing. Before we dive into what Vital4 does, Amy, why don't you introduce yourself and let us all know, who you are, where you came from, and why you guys decided to kick off Vital4.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm excited to just have a chat with you today and be able to kind of get the word out there about Vital4 and what we do. Again, I'm Amy Barbieri, co-founder, president, and chief growth officer here at Vital4. A little bit of background on me. Just a kind of a long career in sales and marketing and technology. And then a really, really good friend of mine who'd known for many, many years was the managing partner and director at an international background screening company. I didn't know much about it, but she came to me many years ago and said, "Hey, I need your help. I need you to come on board and join me here." And that's how I kind of got into the industry. I really loved what they were doing, and I loved the challenge around background screening and learning about data privacy laws all over the world and things like that. So kind of coupled with the technology piece, it really kind of fit my wheelhouse. We kind of fast forward several years later, and the reason we decided to start Vital4 is, we saw a lot of problems that needed to be solved. And, on the really big scale of problems, I mean, we talk about fraud and corruption and money laundering and really, really bad stuff. I mean, if you think about the illicit funds that are laundered through our global banking system every year, it's in the trillions of dollars. So that's like a really high level. And then when you're solving business problems for customers, hey, the transparency of the data or the accuracy of the data or the timeliness of the data, that becomes a whole nother problem. But again, it kind of trickles up to that big problem. And how are we catching people that are really doing bad things? So when you mentioned, like, how are we making the world a better place? We really sought out to use technology to do that. With our expertise and the team that we brought here to Vital4 and the knowledge about just global screening in general and privacy laws all over the world, and then our expertise in on the technology side, we knew we could provide a better solution for our customers from that perspective. So we set out to build our platform. I'm happy to dive into that, but
yeah, and you know what? When people like myself in the cybersecurity space, or just security in general, background screening for employees is just what we think of as basic of somebody being onboarded. and we think of it as something once and done. But at the end of the day, us cyber folks know that people in your process, people in your business, employees, clients, customers, that is your lowest denominator for cyber vulnerability and cyber risk. And so being able to screen the way you guys do, and I'll let you talk more a little bit about why you differentiate in that space, but also the KYC and AML issues that you're addressing, and that you guys have got a global footprint. All of those are extremely impressive. So, you know, give us a little taste of what the background screening looks like, and then,
Sure.
you know, talk to us about some of the things you guys are doing in the AML, KYC, and sanctions area. I think it would be very interesting for everybody to understand.
Sure. Well, I'll probably start it off with a high level, just kind of what the technology does, and then talk about kind of some use cases to bring it all into perspective. But so we set out to build, like I mentioned, a technology kind of first platform. And when I say that, I mean utilizing technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning, newer technologies that some of our competitors and legacy providers can't really tap into. Think of our system as a giant search engine. I kind of put it in layman's terms that way. And that search engine goes out to global data sources all over the world and collects that data real time. And that data is coming from sources like watch lists and sanction sources all over the world. We're collecting adverse media articles from, you know, tens of thousands of sources all over the world. We're looking for adverse media specifically. We're also collecting information on individuals who have held political office or currently hold political office or are associations of those folks. And then our system will create profiles on those individuals. So we're collecting a lot of data. We're also collecting criminal data on individuals from the United States, and we're, you know, putting that into a database as well. The use cases for this data is across a couple of industries where we're focused is, you mentioned background screening. So the background screening industry uses this data for pre-employment screening. And, you know, they're looking for, you know, to mitigate risk for their customers, right? And we typically, you know, deal directly with the background screening companies, and they're using this data to screen, you know, traditional employers, whether it be, you know, a healthcare sector or, you know, financial services, any type industry. And, you know, we're helping them mitigate risk. When you move it over into the financial services sector, as you mentioned just a minute ago with AML and KYC, regulatory requirements. Again, those customers are using the same data, they're just applying it to customer due diligence versus maybe employment due diligence. Bottom line is we're providing data for screening, and we're also monitoring all of these data sources for any changes, so that once you've screened somebody to determine whether, you know, they're on a watch list or they're mentioned somewhere adversely in the news or potentially a politically exposed person, they're all risk indicators. And so we're able to monitor that for any changes. So once you've screened somebody, you know, it's never outdated as long as you're monitoring.
Even in the screening, when you talk about real-time data, a lot of your competitors, they may get what I call quote unquote real-time data once a month. Mm-hmm. They don't get it in the continuous format and flow that you guys get it and process it with your AI engine. So I think that in itself is unique. And a lot of, you know, my being at Valor and my interest in this is I really think we're going to be moving in the security space to those teams that have privileged access within our business or that are running tier 1 SOCs in their business, that employee is going to be background screened on a regular basis. And that could be quarterly, it could be monthly. In some cases, you may even want to screen the person daily, because from one day to the next, a lot can change in an individual's life. You know, I just keep thinking back a scenario that I had in one of my previous companies where an employee was one day a very good employee, and the very next day we didn't realize the employee was going through divorce and a really difficult time. And they, you know, the bad actors on the web could see that this individual was in need of some cash, and they, fished him and got him to do some things that were very nefarious inside of the company. So at one moment, you think the individual, the employee, is a good employee, a solid employee, would never do anything like this, but you don't see what's really going on around that employee that might trigger them to do something they would have never considered before. And without some type of screening and some type of evaluation, mainly with those employees with privileged access or special access to the business, or critical roles, or even executive positions, those type of screenings are something that should be done more than once at the beginning of employment. The employee stays employed for years, and we don't typically go back and rescreen. And I think we really should do. I think it's better hygiene for the corporation. So, as you guys are doing sanctions with all this stuff with the Ukraine and Russia, how are you guys handling that? And how is that material to what you guys are working on right now?
Yeah, no, very. It's been kind of crazy with this flurry of activity going around with what's going on with Russia. It kind of, we've heard ourselves for the 6 years we've been in business, kind of preaching to really educate how important it is to do sanction screening. And I think there's a, kind of a check in the box approach that, companies have always taken to it, especially ones that are more highly regulated, and then companies, that are obligated but don't do it, think that, it's never going to be an issue. I think right now in the state of, where the world is a perfect example why sanction screening is so important. And to your point just a minute ago, the continuous screening, we've been talking about how, what these customers that have screened individuals or even companies that they do business with, what are they doing right now? Because, if there's a gap and somebody wasn't on a sanctions list 3-4 months ago, but is today, they're still obligated to know they're on a sanctions list. And so, it couldn't be more relevant. Since February, there has been more sanctions I've ever seen in my career. And OFAC has taken many, significant actions related to, the Russian financial services sector and the government, and has also authorized sanctions against particular people or entities that kind of operate in that sector. And specifically people of, have significant power and influence. And so, they're also sanctioning Belarus because of their support and facilitation into the invasion. And so, and most recently, I know OFAC and the U.S. Department of State has sanctioned several Russian oligarchs as well, and their family members. So I was just speaking about that earlier with the politically exposed people that we can identify. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. I mean, I know over the weekend, 4 of the largest U.S. payments companies in the U.S., and that's Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and PayPal, all announced bans in Russia in response to the, the sanctions, and just trying to help assist in that kind of economic chokehold we're trying to put on Russia. And, there's a lot of significance with that because, Visa and MasterCard alone represent like 3/4 of the Russian card payment market. Sorry.
And Shell even announced that they were going to shut things down.
Shell.
Yeah, a lot of companies. And there's no one place that you can get this kind of information unless you were leveraging a platform such as yours. Because right now it's a collection of, you got to dig something out of a news report. But what I loved about your platform is when I log in, I can set up the parameters that my business would need to have it happen and build reports and or information for me. But at the same time, those sanctions it's not just sanctioning your business and your business, it's you have to look that thread all the way through to your clientele. That's hard. And do you guys help companies with that or help them understand how to do this?
I mean, every company really has their own kind of level of I guess, comfort with compliance. You know, we don't tell companies how to be compliant. We give them the tools to be compliant. We do try to talk about best practices, and so we do try to really, educate the market on why sanction screening is important, and the way to kind of get to the most relevant data. Because again, I think one of the biggest problems that our customers face is mounds and mounds of data without having an effective way to get to the right information. If you can imagine, and you're searching for a common name, and that's all you have, it's really hard to tell if that person is the person you're looking for. So being able to match identifiers and use AI and machine learning to kind of tie some of that information together is where we kind of, really, really shine in that area. So yeah, I mean, to answer your questions, we do give the tools, and we definitely preach best practice. But yeah, ultimately it lies on the shoulders of the customer, our customer or our customer's customers to remain compliant in that manner.
Now, you guys are headquartered here in Atlanta. How big is your team?
Well, that's a great question. We are hiring right now quite a bit. I think last time I checked, we had about 34, 35 employees. However, we do have quite a bit of growth slated for this year. So I think we have 14 or 15 open roles right now. So we'll hit over 50 this year.
That is nice. And it's nice to see that you're growing up in our region, but you reach a lot of countries. So how many countries do you actually operate in?
So physically, we have an office. We're here in Atlanta, and that's our home base. And we do have an office in Europe and Malta. However, from a global reach perspective, our background screening services reach 240 countries and territories, and as well as our data services as well. So we have data, we're pulling data from, basically every country that publishes information. So we're really true global coverage.
That's nice. And if, and I know people can go to your website and register. Can they actually do a trial with you guys to see maybe they're using some tools in one of these areas today and kind of want to do a little bit of a comparison of your capabilities? Are they able to do something from your website?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. Yes, they can reach us there. There's a contact form on our website. We're happy to do a demonstration of the product and the solution, and the data is available for testing. So when we are selling our solutions to our customers, we typically are going through a pretty stringent testing process where they're running searches against people or entities to make sure they're coming up on these sanctions list as expected. That's really the best way to kind of put our money where our mouth is and know that what solutions we're offering are truly up to date. And we certainly have been put to the test with our customers over the last month, for sure, no doubt.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that the anti-money laundering initiatives and the KYC, as well as sanctions.
Yeah.
If not compliant, there's some big fines that can be levied. In fact, some cases your business can be shut down.
Right.
And so it's very critical that that the businesses are doing this accordingly or appropriately. And I'm just glad that you guys are putting your arms around this. I just really think that you're going to be the new wave for those of us that are security professionals in making sure that that individual that you hired is staying that good individual, mainly since you've given them the keys and the access and the privileges within the systems to do things that, maybe even the CEO can't do. And when I say that, a lot of that, the root access and capabilities, a lot of privileged access employees, and there shouldn't be but a handful in each company. And yet I have to say, in some banking and financial sectors, there's more than 1,000 people that have that type of access, which is way too many. It's, you know, the risk that you've opened up, not only for your internal business, but for your clients is huge. So I just really, you know, excited that there might be a new avenue for you guys to be leveraged in the security front, in the employee base, and as it's being thought about. And this is why Valor really was engaged with you guys, because we really see you as that next frontier taking this space forward. And just really look forward to kind of watching you on your journey and seeing the exciting things that you guys are doing. I know that sanctions change on a regular basis, and a lot of us have a lot of trouble keeping up. But man, how many data interfaces do you guys interact with? And you may not even know the exact number, but there's probably a significant number.
There is, on the sanction side, upwards of almost 7,000 sources. And so, you know, yes, it's very significant coverage, but if you get into all of the different data products that we have combined, I mean, tens and tens and tens of thousands. I don't know the exact number, but yes.
No, but just think about a person trying to do this manually, or even cheat, or even with them just scrolling. It's just got to, and even your background check and background screening capability, you know, sometimes that process can be weeks, and you guys can do it how quick?
Well, it depends, I think, on what the service is and what country. But, you know, yes, if there's a way that we can speed that process up, we do it. I mean, we're an innovative technology company, so anything that we can do to kind of speed that process along. On the services side, not as much, because again, we're usually kind of, you know, at the mercy of the government entity that we're, you know, gathering documents for. And by the way, we have suspended all of our background screening services in Russia and Ukraine at the moment because of what's going on. But from a data perspective, we can still grab, you know, anything that's out there in real time. So as the sanctions are hitting live, we're hitting the sources and updating on a regular basis. So yeah, it just depends on what country, what service we're talking about, but from a data collection perspective, we're as fast as they come.
Yeah, I was very impressed with how quick you were able to pull information and return it back. And you know, I know we're sitting at probably about 24 minutes into our 30-minute slot, so I want to open it up for those around the table to ask some questions. And I got a question here. So, do you actually provide compliance reports? You know, if you were doing sanctions, is there a reporting mechanism that somebody could actually print out and share within the organization?
So we do print out a report of the data that we found. It's up to our customers to kind of disseminate that information and decide what they're going to do with it. But yes, we actually can collect the information and deliver it in several different formats as far as our report is concerned.
Nice. Good question. That was a good question. And let's see, what other question? Oh, so your AI engine, did you guys, are you using somebody else's AI engine, or did you, I'll just say it like this, write your own?
Yeah, there's and thank you. That's a great question. We have developed our own technology in a couple of areas. One is part of the search algorithms and the way that we're able to search against a name or an entity name and then match that information directly at the record where that information is found. And then there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background to try to determine what we call the relevancy of that information. And the more relevant the information is based on what was input at the time of the search, based on what we found at the record, kind of boost those scores to the top. We've also developed proprietary machine learning algorithms that help us build our politically exposed persons profiles. And so those are again, typically in the past have all been fully manual process. We kind of have a three-pronged approach where we're our system's going out and looking at sources for people that are politically exposed, but then we're also taking other products and solutions and like our media and saying, hey, you know, if somebody was announced that they took office in the media, it's going to hit there first before it's going to hit a world leaders list. So we'll take that information and couple it with all the other information we have and create those profiles. And then we have a manual solution to teach that machine if it's correct or not. So it's an interesting process, but that's a very specific proprietary technology we have built.
Very cool. And one other question, I think we can take this last one. It's around the persons of interest. So if you have a CEO or an executive, are you able to, and not only perform background screening, are you able to kind of see what is out in the public domain on this individual that could be positive or negative or brand impacting?
Yeah. So we really focus in on the negative. I know that kind of sounds like a bummer, right? Like there's a lot of great things that people do, but from a risk perspective, right? That's what we're really trying to do. So we are, our adverse media solution helps you kind of, instead of Googling something and having to sort through, you know, pages and pages and pages of information, and where a lot of it might be positive, to search for that one little piece that might be negative. And again, you're mitigating risk, right? So in a hiring process, if there's something bad out there, you want to know about it, we're going to try to send you right directly to that information. And then as far as positive, no, all the negative information we should be able to disseminate through all the different solutions that we have, from a criminal background check to, you know, negative media information or politically exposed persons information. If they're on a watch list, we should be able to determine that. So hopefully that answers that question.
It does. I think we live in such a complex world with people from all different walks of life and from different countries. And some companies have, and a lot of companies, if they're working with certain type of technologies, have restrictions on hiring people from certain countries. And so this is very critical that you guys have put something together that helps a business manage this very complex and difficult space. And we are like right at the top of the hour, or the half hour, I would say, the 30 minutes. Amy, thank you very, very much. This was very helpful. And hopefully the folks that are sitting around the table and listening to us in real time will reach out to you if they need further information. And as we share this across the web, get you guys more promoted and people more aware of what you can offer and what you can do. So thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robin. It was great chatting with you today. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Do we have Jean-Luc back with us?
One sec.